A U.S. Supreme Court decision could have a major impact on how the country handles the surge of migrants along the border. The decision requires the Biden administration to revive former President Trump's Remain in Mexico immigration policy. President Biden had tried to end the program, which requires asylum seekers at the southern border to wait in Mexico while the U.S. determines their eligibility. The Department of Homeland Security has already appealed the order, but for now, the State Department is in talks with the government of Mexico to re-implement the program. Governor Greg Abbott released a statement calling the decision a major victory. He vowed that Texas would keep fighting back against what he calls President Biden's open border policies while working to secure the border and keep communities safe. Meanwhile, a bill that would funnel $1.8 billion toward border security is making its way through the Texas legislature. It's one of the governor's priorities this special session, but Maggie Glynn reports it could have a ripple effect on our criminal justice system.
Thanks to Tatum and Chief Kidd for allowing us to have a portable morgue.
Border County sheriffs paint a grim picture of death on their watch.
We currently have 78 from year to date. 13 of those bodies were recovered within 6 days.
Border Patrol reports a 500% increase in encounters with undocumented migrants in the Rio Grande Valley sector alone this year, which is why lawmakers are trying to help.
House Bill 9 includes $301 million to deploy an additional 1,800 guard along the border to support law enforcement.
That would bring the total number of guardsmen at the border to 2,500, 13% of the state's 19,000. The bill also includes plans to make more room for migrant detentions.
They are transported currently to the TDCJ Briscoe unit in Dilley, Texas, where they await trial.
The Briscoe unit currently has 486 migrants, almost all charged with misdemeanor trespassing. This bill would provide funding to convert 2 more prisons in the border region.
Once the Briscoe unit reaches 500, TDCJ, in conjunction with the Texas Commission on Jail Standards, will start bringing the other units up to code.
Democrats point to issues beyond state control.
The UN talked about El Salvador and Honduras being the murder capital of the world.
I think what we want to get our heads around is this is multi-layered, complex issue.
Border sheriffs say they still need immediate help, though.
Well, it's complex in nature. There's a lot of layers that we need to look at, and you just got to peel one layer at a time. But the first layer is border security.
Maggie Glynn joins us now. This bill calls for $1.8 billion in funding, just over $300 million for guard troops. What are some of the other big items that this bill is funding?
So this bill is basically doling out money to a bunch of different state agencies that will all be going toward border security. That includes DPS, which will provide funding for not only more troopers to assist, but also some more patrol vehicles for DPS. It also provides some more funding to TDEM, who's helping procure the elements needed for the governor's border barrier, as they're calling it. It's not really a border wall, it's more of a fence now. So it's just a lot of money kind of being doled out to all of the major state agencies.
Now, as we mentioned, the bill would deploy 1,800 more guard members to the border. What will they be doing specifically?
So they have been granted permission to actually assist with arrests at the border. 500 of them will also be assisting in again, building that barrier wall that we talked about. So 2,000 of them have been granted permission to help with processing and arrests, and then, like I said, 500 will be helping with the barrier itself.
So you mentioned the state plans to clear out prisons to make room for migrants. How do they clear out prisons, and what happens to those inmates?
So it's essentially taking the prisoners and dispersing them to other prisons that have the capacity to take them across the state. So it usually takes about a week. We saw it happen in July with the Briscoe unit. Inmates they're given about 24 hours notice. They tell them where they're going so that they can let their loved ones know where they're heading. And then it usually takes about a week to actually get them there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't think about the families that have loved ones in jails. You spoke to some of them, right?
I did, and they were extremely heartbroken back in July. I spoke to the mother of a son. Her son was in the Briscoe unit, and he was being moved about 10 hours away, and she moved her entire life to the Briscoe unit, right outside the Briscoe unit, so that she could visit with him. And now you know, the prison that he's at now is a 10-hour drive, and she's having to contemplate, you know, does she pack up and move again to be by this next prison, or will he be moved again as soon as the Briscoe unit is converted back to a typical prison? It's really heartbreaking. I also spoke with a wife of a prisoner who was facing the same thing. It was going to be a 7-hour drive now for her. So it was just really heartbreaking. And they were given such short notice that they had very little time to process it.
All right, Maggie, thanks for following this for us.
Thanks, Josh.
A father loses his son, the victim of a pill purchased on social media.
Nothing is ever going to be the same for us. And that's what I want to let parents know is this can happen in a split second.
How he's working to protect other parents from facing a similar tragic loss, hoping a plan being used in another state could make a difference here in Texas.